All right, go.
Yeah, 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it.
Yes, 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a... I can't do it. We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks again for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.
Just do it! Don't let your dreams yesterday set tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it!
Alright, you're going back. You're going to standing? Okay. Alright. Are you intimidating me? Because you're trying
Phone's it's about to die, so I had to.
Alright, you know what? I got a standing desk too, Jace. I can stand up too. You think you're cool? Yeah, think I can't do a stream standing up, Jace?
Hey, what's going on? It's your man Julito McCullum from HBO's The Wire. Some people say it's the greatest TV show ever, but you are watching Fireside Chats with the homie Big Chief Burrito.
Hi, I'm Nick Mangold, 7-time Pro Bowler, and you are listening to Fireside Chats with Big Chief Burrito.
I appreciate your time, brother. Thank you very much for coming on the show today. The best of luck.
Fireside Chats.
What is up, everybody? It is your boy Lou Martinez, aka Big Chief Burrito, live with you on a Tuesday. Fireside Chats with Big Chief Burrito on the 2 a.m. Burrito Network. Thank you for tuning in, checking us out, etc., etc. Glad to still be with you. Haven't done a Fireside Chat in a while. Been busy, life, COVID, etc. And also we've been focusing on our sister show, Mi Gente Show, with my co-host, Sofia Carrillo, where we talk about issues pertinent to the Latinx, Latin community. But Fireside Chats must go on, as I do love interviewing people and talking about their journeys and the stuff that's relevant to me. A year ago, I actually started doing interviews, and at first I didn't even do them live. I was scared to do them live. I had a single 2-camera setup with a camera, and I would record the video through StreamYard or through OBS, and then I would splice it together, and I would have to edit myself, and I hated doing that. And one of the first interviews that I actually did, which was a test run, was with our guest tonight. So full things coming full circle. Our guest tonight is right here. Mr. Tom Steward from Lonesome Whistle Productions.
Hi, how are you? It's a symbiont circle. I'm back again.
Yes, time is a flat circle, as they say. It
was either Phantom Menace or Lion King. That was so I went with the least offensive option, in my opinion.
You're on top. You're on top of it. So thank you again, man, for coming on the show. I really enjoyed our chat. And at the time, I was still recording offline, and I was like, well, you know what? There'll be more Godfather stuff coming up. The Offer, Coda, a bunch of Godfathers. So we've had this kind of pre-planned for a while.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's been a whole glut of Godfather-related media in the last few years, and it's kind of interesting because none of it's new, and yet it's a kind of retelling of the old, which is fascinating.
This was us in way back in episode 6 where we talked, and I had my different camera angle. I still had the Godfather poster. Had you there. But yeah, since and when we were talking back then, you were doing a one-man show where you were you were doing every scene from the Godfather in sequence as a one-man show.
That's correct.
And I was enthralled with it because I was tuning in every day to see what minute we were going to get next,
right?
What props you were going to use. So anybody that loves the Godfather and just can't get enough Godfather, go check out the Godfather one part, right?
Yeah.
Because it was the idea of it was brilliant, and then the execution was incredible. So that's where I knew Tom, and I was like, I need that guy on my podcast.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, there's also a Godfather 2 parts now, which is me and
yes, but not a solo one though, right?
No, a very talented actor friend of mine, Lee Aiken, and so we're doing the Godfather 2 parts between us. That's also on my YouTube channel, and you can find it wherever you find the Godfather 1 part. It'll be tagged on to the end of that. But that was a condensed version. I had no appetite of doing a real-time version of the Godfather 2, funnily enough.
No, absolutely. And then thanks for joining us. Anybody that stops by, I got some extra 2 a.m. burrito stickers. So if you know some good Godfather trivia and you want to post it in chat, if you stump both me and Tom, I will mail you a 2 a.m. burrito sticker. So bring the pain. And don't be asking me when the Don's birthday is, because that's an easy one. That's entry level. You gotta go deeper than that. They didn't know it was Pop's birthday.
It's a different birthday in the book as well. So.
Oh yeah, you have to. Yeah, you also have to say whether it's book trivia or movie trivia or both.
Right.
All right. Well, let's jump into kind of the genesis of this, which is the new show on Paramount, The Offer.
Right.
Which is the story behind the story about making of The Godfather. For any Godfather fan, this is a must-watch, like an absolute must-watch. Like if you've read the book, if you read the fan fiction, if you read the stories where Don Corleone goes up against Tony Montana and Pablo Escobar, that consumes extra Godfather content, this is definitely a plus for you. Out of all the extra sort of Godfather add-ons and stuff like that, is this your favorite?
My response to it was a little bit mixed.
Okay.
I mean, I find it very entertaining, also very silly, and a little bit suspect. Okay. Those were my 3 major reactions to it. I mean, listen, I binged the whole thing. It took me like a couple of days just to plow through it. And it's like 10 hours. So yeah, that's not inconsiderable amount of time. So I think that had more to do with the subject matter, and I'm an easy mark, but if I stopped to question anything, that's when it started to fall apart. I was like, because it is all from Al Ruddy's perspective, and he does seem to come well out of every situation.
Yeah, he does have he does sort of become John Travolta in that one movie where he's like super cool. What do you know what I'm talking about, with Danny DeVito? And he's like he does come off in every situation like John Travolta and Get Shorty.
He really, I haven't put that together. That is so true. Yeah.
Like he's the fixer. He's like a guy that can walk into a mob boss's house and just get what he wants. And
well, I thought that when I was watching the show, I thought probably shows like Ray Donovan had a lot to do with the offer getting commissioned in this way. Like, you could tell the story of the making of the Godfather through a lot of different people, but they have gone with this fixer type who's I guess like a popular character type of them.
Yeah. That's another good one. That's another great one, like Ray Donovan type. I'm a fixture. What was the one where with George Clooney, Michael Clayton?
Michael Clayton, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
One of the small issues that I had with it was that it felt like it was a big Paramount jerk off at some point, because it was like,
yeah, no.
That was kind of like my main thing, is like, this is really like, Paramount, like, let's make sure we make Paramount look good and how important a studio it is, and
yeah. Let's throw in some. Let's throw in as many mentions of other Paramount pictures, around the same time, whether they're relevant or not. I didn't need that much about The Longest Yard, really, but again, that's the El Ruddy thing. It's like I didn't necessarily sign up for that. I signed up for Godfather, Godfather trivia, not. I didn't want to know about how The Longest Yard got made, particularly.
Yeah. How the guy, yeah. Well, and his story is kind of a strange one as well, because he goes from computer work to Hogan's Heroes to dropping that to. I mean, I guess when you're married to like a billionaire, you can leave your job anytime you want, right? Because he's like, you know what? It's because I can. It's because your wife is like rich as balls, and
that's true. Yeah.
Right.
I guess so. He's definitely an interesting guy, but he's not necessarily who I wanted to see, whose eyes I wanted to see The Godfather through. But I mean, it was a fascinating show. I don't think you can go wrong with the material. I think there were some great performances. I thought Matthew Good as Robert Evans was superb,
incredibly good.
Like he's just got a real knack, I think, for playing Robert Evans. Like, I feel like we'll be seeing him do it again somewhere.
Yeah, he definitely he like, not that I'm this big Bob Evans expert, but I was like, yeah, that fits. That's every story you've heard, everything's like, yeah, that guy was crushing it.
And Patrick Gallo as Mario Puzo also made me smile. It was like a really lovable kind of portrayal of a guy who is kind of out of his depth, and that's certainly I think that's probably true, that he was kind of thrust into screenwriting without really knowing what he was doing, and I really like that they played up that aspect of it.
I like Giovanni Ribisi. I don't know if he's the first person I think of when I think Mob Boss, when I think Joe Colombo, but somehow he pulled it off.
Yeah. I felt like he was sort of doing his own. He was sort of doing his own Brando on Joe Colombo. He was sort of like he was trying to find this kind of he was not real version of Colombo, in the same way that Brando did with like a recognizable character, but not human. I don't know how to put it, but when it's sort of like, this is a ridiculous stereotype, but it works, and I found the same with Giovanni Ribisi.
Yeah, I think the casting was one of the strongest parts of the show. Locations, they did a really bang up job. Obviously, Paramount threw some money into it. Getting to hear and see all the little backstories that you've sort of heard about, like we always heard that the horse's head was real.
Right.
Was it Al Ruddy's secretary really that was with the mob guy that got it, or what was or was that just sort of what they came up with in the show, and sort of you understand a certain degree of they had to combine threads and stuff here to make it more palatable for a TV audience, but at the same time, as a fan, everything that you could want in terms of compare it with something like Solo, the Star Wars movie, right? where they were sort of spoon feeding you these Easter eggs and this fan service of, oh, this is how he got the dice that you never cared about, or this is how this happened. That's not that important. You know, there's this tendency to do that, whereas this was giving you those little morsels in a little bit more of an organic way, I think, in terms of the telling of the story. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just fascinating to sort of to see a piece of fiction set in a world where, well, I guess the book is out, so they're aware of the Godfather from that perspective. Right. But the movie doesn't exist, and it feels like a different world when you don't have the Godfather to hand in your daily life. That's what really struck me. This point in history where it's just a best-selling book and not something that has infiltrated all aspects of popular culture.
And they're trying to make an Avengers-style poster. They're trying to.
Oh yeah, and absolutely, yeah. And it never struck me that I guess because you're so familiar with it and love it for so many different reasons that anyone would ever have that much trouble trying to figure out, what's good about the Godfather.
Yeah.
It's just like limitless possibilities. But I guess as the offer shows, it wasn't a conventional movie for the early 70s, or like a conventional big budget movie.
It was almost like a comedy of errors of them trying to get in their own ways. Like we all know we know it's one of the best pieces of cinema of all time. It's one of the most rewatchable movies of all time.
Yeah.
And you see these people that are just like dead set on fucking it up. That's part. My biggest
see how easily that could have been done as well. I mean, I guess that's the real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Hanks character, which was supposed to be like a combination of a lot of his studio execs, was also an interesting character in that, they sort of made him like the bane of their existence, the evil executive, almost like Hogan, it kind of like that kind of guy.
It is. It's. I mean, it is a TV show, and it's kind of got to follow a little. Even it's a kind of mini series. I guess they call it limited series now, but same thing. And it follows its own kind of formula. So it's interesting just to watch it, aside from the material, because you have to have that. You have to have that Colonel Klink kind of character. That sort of Newman.
There's got to be like a point where you're almost like, oh my God, what if they don't make the movie? And you're like, I've watched the movie 80 times. The movie gets made.
They're going to pull Inglourious Bastards on you. And,
this is an alternate timeline. I'm going
the studio is going to burn up the cans of the film.
Yeah, no, they're like, we're going with Love Story 2 instead. Okay, what's going on here? What are they doing to us? One of the things that I had to stop myself from doing was after like episode 2 or 3, I was like, I kind of want to watch The Godfather right now, right? Because they give you the setups to these incredible scenes. They give you a whole episode of them talking about the house and the fights about the lighting for the Brando scenes and the tests and stuff like that. And they're about to roll on the scene and they say action. And you're like, and then boom.
Yeah.
They give you Godfather blue balls throughout the whole show.
Yeah, that's that's true. Well, and then you just you can just stay on Paramount Plus and go and watch the movie. They know what they're doing. It's corporate, it's conglomerate logic. They know what they're doing.
It's synergy.
It's synergy, but it's I think it's still judicious to not try and recreate the actual scenes from The Godfather.
Yeah, that would have been a little bit weird if I like that we saw like Brando testing stuff out and things like that. I really like they were just the organic stuff, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You realize how haphazard it all is. I mean, the stories that I've kind of known for years, but I don't know, I haven't paid as much attention to Lenny Montana as Luca Brasi, basically his whole part comes from the fact that the actor can't remember his lines. And they make that part of the character. And when you see that actor, you realize it's just a director trying to solve a problem on set, right? But you never, I don't know, it's never entered into my mind that Luca Brasi is anything other than this character, or would have ever been anything other than this guy who's kind of who's completely speechless when he actually has to talk to the Don. So I like seeing that, I like working back from that. I think they did moments like that really well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I was trying to figure out whether I enjoyed it more as a filmmaker or as a Godfather fan. Because as a filmmaker, independent filmmaking at its core and small time filmmaking at its core and filmmaking at its core is problem solving to some degree, because you didn't get the actor you wanted, you didn't get the location you wanted, you didn't get the equipment you wanted. Something has to get fixed, and you have to make the best of what you can to salvage the day. So seeing that and seeing Francis Ford Coppola kind of going through it and them coming up with these organic solutions on the spot, and it was great. I'm trying to figure out if I like them more as because I'm a Godfather obsessed cinephile, or because I'm a filmmaker that's obsessed with the Godfather.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's a really interesting question. I mean, I think ultimately it was my love of the material that got me through. But there's just some. You're right. There's some interesting things just generally about filmmaking, about film financing as well. I mean, there's not many TV shows that go into that kind of detail about how the idea of blockbusters came about in a financial sense. We know what it means in terms of what movies are called blockbusters, but a lot of people don't know that it's a financial term. It's just about, well, not even financial. It's just a booking. It's just like a booking strategy for movie theaters, and that's fascinating.
Yeah, the 3-hour cut can only have we can only show it this many times. Yeah. There's a lot of inside stuff there as well. As an actor, did you gravitate at all to the acting part, to the Brando stuff?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'm fascinated by Brando, just in general. I mean, he's such a big bag of contradictions as an actor. I think people over focus on the idea of him as a method actor, because what he does is his kind of process is, to me, more about just kind of like admitting that acting is just pure illusion and just having fun with it, playing with it. And that's why Don Corleone, I think, is his most successful performance, because he does what he needs to do to create the character, whether that's like sticking cotton balls in his mouth or putting boot polish on his on his face, whatever it is. And it's got nothing to do with realism, but it's just about honing this totally unique character in a totally distinctive performance style. And that's, for me, that's why Brando is so endlessly fascinating. It's not because I believe what he's necessarily doing. It's just because I think he's just incredible to watch. And I think the movie focusing on that rather than focus it, and there's lots of references to him being quite mercenary, and that might have been a revenge ploy, him taking the part in the first place. But there's a sense that he cared, and he was using the screen as his canvas, but just refuses to learn lines, and it's fine. And those who know, I mean, it was really interesting for me to see how supposedly easygoing Coppola was about Brando not knowing lines, and about some of his more eccentric.
Yeah, he's in the moment.
Yeah. Compared to, like, you flash forward 5 years to Apocalypse Now, when it's the absolute bane of his existence. He can't get this guy to to go on camera and do what he's asking him to do, and he's in the middle of the jungle and losing his mind, and you got to do that with him and Dennis Hopper in your other ear. I mean, it's really interesting to see.
Did you watch that documentary?
Heart of Darkness? Yeah. For years, I think that's incredible documentary, as good as the film. I think it's as powerful to me. It's so magnificent. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm completely into the cult. I'm completely into the cult of Brando as a performer. I think he's got something totally unique, and I like the film kind of the show kind of teasing that out a little bit.
Yeah, the rest of the cast was incredible. Matthew Good as Robert Evans, Anthony Ippolito as Al Pacino, I think was probably the best out of all of them in terms of channeling like a young Pacino.
Yeah. The fragility of like a young Pacino is really interesting to see, especially for like for audiences who are more used to seeing this guy who's total bravado now. You know, this kind of post Scarface Pacino is just, you know, total melodrama. It's really interesting to see the roots of this guy who came from the theater, really, you know, mild-mannered performance style, so much so that the studio didn't even clock him as a leading man. And then you look at him now.
Yeah, it's weird to see.
Screaming on his cell phone, you know, and, looking like Richard Lewis on a bad day.
He's got what was the thing about the internet? He's got a Shrek phone case. People were freaking out about that. Like, the Shrek phone case is real. Seeing subtle Pacino was kind of like, you know.
It's so funny. I mean, there wasn't really anything about John Cazale, which is, you know, fine. I mean, you make a whole show about John Cazale and his career, but I've heard interviews with Pacino saying that, you know, he learned a lot from Cazale about restraint. Mm-hmm. And I think, is it a coincidence that John Cazale dies early into Al Pacino's career, and from that point, you know, from similar kind of timeline, he starts drifting into less believable acting. So I wonder how much he was influenced by the people around him in the film. It certainly seems like it.
Hey, saludos. My cousin from Uruguay is tuning in. Thank you, Gerardo. Un abrazo, un saludo aquí en vivo, hablando sobre El Padrino, El Godfather, and the show The Offer on Paramount. So you said that you have kind of like a love-hate. What were the parts of the show that you enjoyed the least, that you thought were silly or kind of?
I think, you know, one of the criticisms I heard, which I do generally agree with, is that it plays like a live action Wikipedia entry. And, you know, there's always that problem in any kind of historical fiction that, you know, the dialogue is there to give information to the audience as much as it is to be a conversation. So sometimes we lose that balance, and they're just dispensing information. People are saying things to each other that they already know, just for the sake of the audience hearing it. And there was a lot of that. And there was a lot of repetition for a story that is not short of anecdotes. I thought there was a lot of repetition. Like every time Juno Temple sort of got the better of a man on set, you'd see her sort of walking away, like strutting like this.
Yeah, girl power.
Some badass music. And I was like, oh, we could just do one of those. Like, I get the point.
Right.
But you know, overall, I mean, it carried me through. I think I was just sort of aware that this was a pretty superficial treatment of what it might.
It wasn't as bad as the Queen biopic, though. I mean, I think that one is kind of like the cream of the crop in terms of self-indulgent. Let's only show the good parts, right? That one was kind of like right there.
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah, it did, and it it didn't shy away from the connections with the mob and all those things that. But I guess with this material, it's all in this part of the same mythology. It's what people like to hear about it. That they were working with the mob and the like. So I thought it could get a little bit silly. Some of the production values were a little strange to me. They were trying to sort of do like digital landscaping of 70s New York at times, and I don't quite know how I felt about that. It's something that I've seen done well in something like Boardwalk Empire, but in this show it just read as really flat. And I know it was made during the pandemic, and I don't know if that was a factor that can keep people out of real places, but it did distract me. Some of the clearly digital backgrounds that we're trying to recreate the 70s.
I think that maybe if I rewatch it, I'll be a little bit more critical of it. But I think I was fanboying too much on the whole thing, and just because I've never been a deep dive Godfather guy. I'm strictly a movie guy. I'm usually a watch the movies before you read the book, so you already have a kind of a visual in your head.
Yeah.
But I never took those deep dives into the full version of The Godfather. I sort of, I watched all the cutscenes, and I went a little bit into the mythology, into a little bit of this, and read a little bit of that. But I wasn't really like deep. I didn't read the offer or even knew about it. So when it was like, hey, this is a story about the making of The Godfather, I'm just like, oh my God, this is like the crib sheets for all the stuff that all the other truths like you have been about like forever, like the people that have known about it are like, oh yeah, did you know where they got the horse's head from, or do you know where they got this from? And
exactly, yeah. That is the great thing about The Godfather. I mean, it's three films. It is technically a franchise, but I don't feel like you're dependent on other material. I feel like what you can get out of just watching one of these films, or at least one of the first two films, is really all you need. You actually don't need to go back to the book and you're most likely to be disappointed with what you find. And it's the opposite of how most franchises work now, where you're kind of so dependent on reading or watching something else to understand what it is you're watching. Whereas and they cut huge as they show in the offer, they cut huge amounts of the story out of the Godfather movie. Even though it's a 3-hour movie, there's still lots of information that we don't get, but it is so cinematically perfect. We don't miss it, or the screenwriting and directing fills in the gaps for us.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about the deleted scenes, which in some cases add a little bit of context. Like there's a whole scene of like Clemenza taking Paulie around and having him sit out. Having him sit outside while he's eating pasta for 45 minutes, and then talking about how he got a wood bumper from the car dealership and all this and that, and you're just like, all right, I guess I could see how they cut this.
Yeah, that's it. They really it's tight. I think the 3-hour cut is actually pretty tight, which sounds ridiculous, but it really is. There, when you see what they left out, I think, wow, this could have been meandering, and it never feels meandering even at 3 hours.
It feels like an epic story. It doesn't feel like that. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in so far. We're live with Tom Steward from Lonesome Whistle Productions. You can find him on Facebook or on Twitter. Follow him along. He did The Godfather in one part, where he did a one-man show of the entire Godfather saga. There's also The Godfather in 2 parts that he did that. And he also has a one-man Bond show, a James Bond show that he did. He's done several fringe projects and festivals, Southern California, here locally. He's an actor for hire. He's there. We are
travel.
And we are live. Make sure that you guys leave a like, leave a comment. Thanks for stopping by. Latino Slant, another great channel on YouTube. Great conversation. YouTube, thank you for this. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by. Do you have your favorite piece of Godfather trivia for us? You might win a sticker. We're going to have Latino Slant, or I'll be on his show. He'll be on my show. We do need to collaborate soon and talk movies, talk TV, etc. And just reminder to everybody that if you are following them, make sure that you are checking out our new social media links. Yeah, basically, as long as you know to look for Big Chief Burrito or 2AM Burrito, you will find us and be able to follow us when we go live. Yeah, so the interesting part of the show is that it sets you up, and towards the end of it, you are sort of thinking, man, I can't wait to see season 2 of this show and see how they made The Godfather 2.
Right.
And they give you just enough of, yeah, the sequel's coming, and Mario and Francis sort of talking about it, and when they do the pitch, we're like, Don Corleone is alive, and this and that, and the whole thing, and then they're like, yeah, but Michael's there too, and they're like, oh God, thank you. But
the idea of The Godfather 2 is like trying to please everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never really thought about it in those terms before, because it's so narratively it's so experimental, and yet, and if you think about it another way, it's like, well, everyone wins. Like if you like this part of The Godfather, you're gonna be happy. If you like this part of The Godfather, you're gonna be happy.
Yeah, I felt like it gave me enough. Like it really gave me enough. Yeah, it was a little bit of a circle jerk for Paramount. Yeah, they're gonna sugarcoat some of the stuff. They're gonna combine some stuff. They're gonna make some stuff convenient. Like I don't know that the day that Crazy Joe got murdered while he was eating clams, that was the day that they got the 40 grand so they could go to Italy. I don't think it went down exactly like that. I don't know if those events happened in the same months, nevertheless the same night as the, like, did Crazy Joe get killed the day of the Godfather rap party? That doesn't seem.
I don't remember. I have a feeling I would have remembered if it was that close.
Yeah, and then they get the call back, oh, you won't have to worry about him no more, and it's like, oh, yes, like he's celebrating that the guy got murdered, and he's like, all right, we can go to Italy.
But I mean, they're also they're trying to recreate. I guess I misspoke before, because I said that they weren't trying to recreate scenes from The Godfather, but that, they try and throw in as many Godfather quotations and parallels to moments from The Godfather in the story of telling it. And it got a little tiresome after a while. It's sort of like, you're just waiting for the catchphrase so the scene can kind of move on. But I guess, if you think about the movie itself, it does a lot of this kind of ellipsis of time, and kind of it makes you feel like everything's. I think there's a part of The Godfather towards the end that about 10 years passes in about 5 minutes of screen time. It's something like that, but it doesn't feel that way. But that is different when you're dealing with actual historical events. You have to have some credence to whether or not they happened at the same time or not. But the Godfather movie itself is full of those kind of these big passages of time that happen in minutes and seconds. So I think they're trying to create something that feels like The Godfather when you watch it, but maybe that was a little bit overdone, and I didn't necessarily need it. I just think the material speaks for itself. It's a if someone sat you down and told you the story of how The Godfather was made, you'd be captivated all the way through, because they're fighting such big odds that this could ever happen. And not only did it happen, it's a huge success.
Yeah, how soon after you finished the series did you go back and rewatch Godfather?
I haven't yet. I know. I mean, it's.
I kept wanting to start it right after every episode. I was like, maybe I'll just go watch it real quick, and then I was like, no, let me wait.
But I have a different problem, which is that I saw it on the big screen for the first time this year, which has sort of ruined me for watching it on any television set, even the most equipped and the most equipped home cinema. Because I put, as we've talked about, I've performed The Godfather in real time, and I had not seen this movie until I'd seen it up there on the big screen. I mean, that there's stuff going on in the corners of the frame that I'd never entertained before, and I'm over the years, obviously, I've started to watch the DVDs and the Blu-rays and versions that have been remastered, so you see more than you did. But I started with the original, like pan and scan, VHS of in like
the two tapes where you had to get up and change tapes after 2 hours. And
with Gordon Willis's cinematography, you couldn't, and the VHS quality, you could see nothing. But this was the pinnacle of that, going into a movie theater and sort of there's scenes that Fredo is in that I had no idea he was in. It's that kind of level of I had no idea that person was standing there in that scene. And it just sort of reminds you like how carefully composed every single shot in the film is. Like every single shot. There's absolutely there's not one moment of the movie that you couldn't sell as a painting. It's that good. And I guess they allude to that a little bit in The Offer as well. You see like Caravaggio paintings on the on their storyboards as they're kind of working on the movie, and I think that's really interesting because that really struck me, like how painterly it is as a movie. I'd never got a sense of that before. I think with you just because you're hooked on the story, but visually I was blown away, and that doesn't really happen often with a film I know as well as this one.
Yeah, I had a bunch of stuff happening at the time that was happening, so I could not get myself out of the house for like 4 hours at a time to do that.
Right.
But it was, but I'm hoping that they'll, it's more and more common now that they're having special screenings, and there's a lot of nostalgia about it right now. So I think that there's a possibility that we'll get another screening here sometime in person to go check all that out.
Of all the kind of overrated movies in the world, this is one of the most justifiably overrated movies. Like there's no superlative that is too extreme for this film.
There is a and I've talked to because my whole thing with film fans is that sometimes I feel like film fans or cinephiles try to gatekeep sometimes in terms of like kind of how people are like, oh, you like Metallica and Kate Bush because of Stranger Things? Well, I liked them because I was a fucking pimple-faced teenager in the 80s and 90s, you know what I mean? It's like, who cares? Why? Who cares if somebody liked rock music because they heard a song on Guitar Hero or because they were there the day the album dropped? They're a fan. Let fans be a fan. And I think that's similar to what cinephiles will do when they're like, oh, you like this movie? Well, you have to go watch these obscure French movies and this guy and this Italian master and this guy, and oh, you didn't see his first, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so there's kind of a reverse backlash of people that are like, I didn't see The Godfather and I don't want to see it. But I think I think there's movies that you can skip as a film fan.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's like, it's not relevant to you, it's if you want to get deep into it and you're like, well, who inspired Pacino and Coppola? I mean, Scorsese and Coppola. and Tarantino and stuff like that, then you can sort of do that deep dive. And there's a vast amount of like bougie film knowledge that I don't have. You know, I know my basics and I know my obscure shit. I know mumblecore. I know like indies, 90s. I know a bunch of stuff, but I don't know everything, French outdoors and all this other stuff. So I think there is a little bit of that going on. And there's like the reverse of that where like younger film fans are like, well, we don't want to watch anything pre 1978 or 82 or something like that, or, you know, nothing in black and white or nothing here, nothing there. But I do think that the Godfather in of itself has a little bit for everything, and it stands up still today.
It does, yeah. It's such an. I mean, it's such an. It's not the kind of movie that I would normally go back to so much because it's slow, it's deliberate, it's a really involved story that takes its time, but. There's some magical elixir about it that keeps it compelling, and you know it's so good it even ruins me for The Godfather Part 2. And there's nothing wrong with that film, but it's just The Godfather that it really is its only problem. So it's just magnificent. Everything came together. And the offer showed us that was by no means guaranteed. So that's interesting if you work in the industry. You know that even troubled productions can turn out great movies.
My boy Randy just tweeted back at me when I tagged him in this, and he says, "My hands were in the offer. I was a hand double for Giovanni Ribisi."
Oh, Randy! Wow, excellent. Look at that! Look at those.
Yeah, look at that. Those are Randy Davidson hands. Nice. Nice. Good job, Randy.
So his hands were the ones turning
the script when they were pretending to read it.
Script. I mean, that's one of the most famous anecdotes from the making of The Godfather. That story of Joe Colombo. You know, this kind of, I guess it's like a poker game, really, isn't it? It's like how much of the script is he going to read? We've pieced together the script from what we have, but if he actually sits down and reads it, he'll realize it's nonsense. And it's a brilliant moment. So I'm really glad it was your hands touching the paper for this moment, Randy.
And the other thing about that is that in every scene with the mob, he's giving back something that he doesn't really want. He's like, oh yeah, what if we cut down the scene with you would do that for me? How about if we don't say the word mafia? Oh, you would do that for me? Right. You know, which is another one of his like he's a fixer type moments.
Completely. Yeah, and it's really, again, you don't need a 10-episode series about Godfather 2 to see that the juggernaut that was The Godfather meant that even the mob couldn't tell Coppola what to do with the second movie, because they say mafia and Cosa Nostra all the time. Yeah. It's like it's all over that film. You know, there's even Senate hearings into organized crime. You know,
we have it. We have the affidavit.
I'm glad that that's one of my favorite moments with all that's all film directors. Well, some of them are film directors. Roger Corman is in them, I believe, as one of the senators. Coppola said he wanted people who looked awkward talking in public, so he immediately went to all his film director friends.
The one of the things that I respect the most for both movies, Part 1 and Part 2. Part 2's got that long tracking shot in Ellis Island with like 200 extras, and not one.
Pair of twins.
Huh?
And a pair of twins, which kind of easy to pull off.
Yeah, and
twins as you go by.
And not one camera spike. I, as a director and as an editor, if one of the actors, even if it's a background, I can spot an eyeball hitting the camera in 2 seconds, then I will immediately screenshot that and send it to the actor and be like, "Fuck," No, I have a whole folder on my computer of camera spikes from takes that I couldn't use because I can spot them in a second. I can scrub through footage, find the camera spikes, and they always stand out at me when I watch movies, and I'm like, wait, was that a camera spike? Rewind. Oh, yep, gotcha. But in that one, in the Godfather and all the scenes, the wedding scene, and that giant ass Ellis Island scene, not one person, not one character actor, like in, like in The Dark Knight Rises, where they're like fighting and they're just sort of like grabbing each other, like not one background actor is like out of place or messing around and stuff like that, and it just takes a lot to do that.
Yeah, and I think. You see in the Arthur Coppola's method of directing is as much about sort of putting people at ease before the camera rolls, so they forget about things like hitting marks and eye lines, and they're sort of reacting at least in the background as you normally would in that situation. You should do something with that folder of camera spikes you've got. You should like Cinema Paradiso it. And turn it into its own little short film.
Well, funny you should say that because I mean, honestly, all I do is save it and then I share it with like other directors and editors and stuff like that. But I'll immediately export the frame and I'll message it right to that actor and I'll be like, ha ha, aha. We're live with Tom Steward from Lonesome Whistle Productions. Also, let's shout out some of his other ongoing projects here. You can find him and watch more of his films. Films. Give me a second here. If you go to the Everything Sequel podcast, look for the Everything Sequel podcast on Transistor. This is where they talk about sequels. So I'm sure they have an episode on Godfather 2.
Not yet.
Not yet?
No, not yet. I mean, you just look at that list. It's highest and lowest. It's
Magnum Force, the Dirty Harry series 2022 project. I mean, the 1982 project is separate, where you guys are talking about some basically specific movies from your youth, right?
Yeah, that's a side project that my co-host Michael Shantz is doing with a screenwriter friend of his, Matt Aldrich, who most recently worked on Lightyear. I think he's best known for Coco, but he was part of the Lightyear writing team, and they talk about the films of 1982, all of which are having a 20-year anniversary, and there's this huge groundswell of films that we know and films that are still with us. This treasure trove of titles that haven't gone away, basically, and it's a really interesting. I mean, I love film history, so it's a really interesting project. But they do a really great job of, talking about what it meant to them as kids as well. They were sort of, I think 7 and 10 at the time, and yeah, I'm very proud to host it on the podcast. I don't have much to do with it, but I'm happy to promote them because it's an excellent show.
And then the Everything Sequel is just you guys goofing about, just kind of like the wrecks that some of these movies are, right?
Well, no, I mean we randomly pick either a series and talk about all the sequels within that series, or we pick a year and then we look at the single sequels that were made in that year. Okay. So it's quite involved. I mean, we've sort of developed our own language for talking about sequels. We if you listen to enough of our episodes, you'll hear like recurring terminology that means more to us than it does anywhere else in the world. But
the shorthand of a podcast.
Well, yeah, exactly. The shorthand, and you realize, when we started this, I mean, it's not like I've spent my life wanting to talk about sequels, once a week for the rest of my life. But I did think there was a niche in the market for a podcast about sequels in the way that we wanted to do it, where we look at series of sequels rather than just individual movies and franchises. But you know, that I knew from the start that the sequels need to be treated as a genre. Sequels need to be treated as a genre in its own right, and too often when we talk about sequels, it's in relation to the original movie or in relation to the bigger franchise. And I think the success of this of the podcast, which is something I'm really proud of, is that we single out the movies and we analyze what's there, not not the reputation of the movie, and try and figure out what's a good sequel, like what does it take to make a good sequel. And that's a question that we haven't answered yet, but we've had lots of fun talking about, because it's one of the hardest things to get right.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely a higher degree of difficulty for a sequel and prequels as well.
Yeah, and we'll sort of entertain any movie that is some kind of sequel. We have a whole mini series of watch-alongs of sequels that sequels from the island of misfit toys, ones that just don't fit into any particular category, and we do those once every 2 months. We're also doing a video mini series about James Bond about the James Bond films that we consider to be sequels rather than standalone adventures. So we're trying to figure out what is a sequel, what makes a sequel, how do you talk about them.
Well, I'm writing a sequel right now to one of our movies, Alien Story. So I understand there's a difference. It's difficult. It's difficult taking it and then expanding on it, trying to stay true to the source material, while at the same time trying it to be its own thing. So putting it out there, if you need somebody to guest on any of the upcoming shows, for GF2, whether it be Super Troopers 2. You
can pick. For guests, we generally let them pick the movie that they're most enthusiastic about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Godfather 2 would be obvious, but probably there'd be a couple others that I do like, that I am a fan of sequels. Right off the top of my head, I'm trying to think. One will come to me. But yeah, it's kind of a real fun sort of niche podcast, I would say. That people can listen along. So yeah, the Everything Sequel podcast, and you can find them on Twitter, or you can follow them by finding Lonesome Whistle Productions as well. And you can keep up with everything that Mr. Steward is doing.
There's a YouTube channel attached to
that. Yeah.
Also, and we've got a lot of video content there.
You gotcha.
That's true. Yeah. As well as full episodes we've got.
See, this is why I love StreamYard and Podbean, because I record the episodes live. I don't edit myself. I just try to make sure that I don't say something stupid. And then I upload it to Podbean, and then Podbean uploads it to like 25 different podcast locations for me. Yeah. And then I say, I got 3 people that listen to me on Bullhorn, and 18 people on Spotify, and 4 people on this place, and it's fucking the best. So shout out Podbean, shout out StreamYard. Go ahead and upgrade me to your pro packages. That'd be great.
We only edit for slander.
For slander.
Actually, we started off doing that. I would just say something that I had no.
You have a Barry Lapidus in your team that sort of scrubs everything.
I would frequently say something that I had no supporting evidence for, and rather than like back away from it, I just keep saying it again. Yeah. So I've taken to having a segment on the podcast where I do some actual research into what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And the answer is always the same. It's I was both right and wrong in equal measure.
No, I try. Honestly, I mean, and being a content creator these days is kind of hard, because sometimes when you're creating content, you're sitting in front of a microphone and you're talking, and you're trying to make things interesting, and you'll just go off on a tangent, and then you'll see the other person. Usually, my governor ratio is my co-host, because if I'm talking and I'm going off on a rant, and I see her going like, I'll be like, wait, what am I saying?
Yeah.
What am I saying right now? And then I'll do really good for the whole stream, and then I'll say something horribly misogynistic or sexist at the end, and she'll be like, "Lou, you're doing so good," and then you had to make that. And then you had to make that one joke about tits at the end, and I'm like, yeah, sorry, it was right there. I couldn't help myself. I try to save those for like 2+ hours in.
Yeah,
and
but but I mean, potentially libelous or slanderous material is taken us down some interesting roads, because I had it in the back of my mind that Mannequin 2 on the Move was involved in an embezzlement scam. And I said this, and I said it again, and I just treated it as it was the truth. And then I followed it up, and even though this specific movie was not implicated in an embezzlement scam, the producer of the movie is one of the most virulent embezzlers in Hollywood. So,
guess what sequel was used to launder thousands in drug money on the next sequel podcast? Something like that.
But doesn't it sound right? Doesn't it?
It does. It sounds incredible. Yeah.
The Mannequin 2 on the Move. That one of the primary reasons for making that movie would be embezzlement.
A girl from Sex and the City. She was in her prime back then.
Didn't even make it into the sequel.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Steve Swanson, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, OG Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
OG Buffy the Vampire Slayer. What are you doing on the stage right now?
The next project I'll be doing is at Onstage Playhouse in Chula Vista. I don't even know if the show is up there yet. It's in their latest season. It's called Rest by Samuel D. Hunter, and it's a character drama set in a retirement home. It's very funny. It's also very bleak. It's all the questions of life and death thrown at you. But I play the the inept manager of a failing retirement home, which interestingly I was considered for. And I read the script, and my first reaction was, this is pretty much what it'd be like if I took over a retirement home. This would be how it goes.
And it's right here on 3rd Avenue in Chula Vista?
Yep. Okay. And they're
You're making it real hard for me to find an excuse not to go.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like literally in my own neighborhood now.
Oh no! I mean, they do phenomenal work. The season is always full of really interesting, challenging shows, high quality acting, directing, technically just brilliant. They're about to premiere a new. They're doing a world premiere, which is on Friday, of a play called The Blue Period, which is about the early years of Picasso. So, and there's some great actors in there. Herbert Siguenza from, formerly of the San Diego Repertory Theater, is in the show, and some other great actors, and I'm really looking forward to that. And Rest will be the show after that.
This just came to me, but because you've studied classically or semi-classically,
Let's say that.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, let's go with that. Yeah.
Let's go with that. What is it that makes it easier for British actors to do American accents than American actors to do British accents? Do you think there's something to that, or?
I think there's something to that. I have a theory. Well, first of all, I'll say.
Because I thought you were, I had no idea you were British, because I would see you do The Godfather, and I was like, oh, this is just some dude doing The Godfather, and then it's like, oh, cheerio, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, well, it's easier, at least from my point of view, it's easier with impersonating specific people, regardless of what accent they have. Like, that's my trick. It's just leaning into the sound, not the accent, but or the dialect. But my theory is that the British, because growing up in Britain, you're so saturated with American pop culture, it's just coming out of your ears at 24/7 that we've grown up. At least in my lifetime, we've grown up just listening to American pop music, watching American TV shows, watching American movies. That it kind of, when you're in a better position to attempt to impersonate an American person because of that cultural experience you've had all throughout your life. And I guess, British pop culture in America is much more select. It's changed. It's changed definitely over the last 10.
I watched a lot of Monty Python growing up.
Right. But compared
Faulty
to
Towers.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a higher percentage of American pop culture in our diet, and I think that's a big part of it.
Mr. Bean.
with no dialogue.
With no dialogue, Mr. Bean. That's Mr. Bean for the mannerisms.
The problem, we send you all the silent stuff.
Yeah.
So that's my again my unsubstantiated theory as to why it might be more possible, and maybe why Australians as well can make the shift as well. Because you go to Australia, you'll see that there's.
Yeah, I was just thinking because
culture.
There's tons of actors that I didn't know. Like first when I first saw Idris Elba in The Wire, no idea.
That's always my. That's the one that baffles me. Just like I would never have known that he wasn't from Baltimore.
Yeah, Idris Charlie Kaufman in Sons of Anarchy, another one that did a great, just indistinguishable American accent.
What's funny is that both those actors have really strong regional British accents, so their job is doubly hard because Charlie's got to shed a Geordie accent, which is one of the thickest accents in Britain, and Idris Elba speaks. He's from an area of London called Hackney, where they have a very pronounced London accent, and it's like I'd my hats off to them because they got to neutralize themselves and then do a different accent. So
yeah, you compare that to like Kevin Costner and Robin Hood, and it's like stop trying. Just stop trying after a couple of lines.
But then there's also the counterpoint to that is Sean Connery, just strutting around, not trying. I think the first scene of every Sean Connery film where he has to play a character from another country. He gives it a try and then he gives up almost immediately.
What was the big one? Was it Highlander where he played the Spaniard?
Mm-hmm.
And Sean Connery as the Spaniard
in a movie full of Scottish people. The actual Scottish person was playing the Spaniard. Yes.
Welcome to the Rock. That's my favorite Sean Connery.
Oh yeah, it was very good. We did Highlander 2 on the podcast a while back. As a watch along, and that was fascinating. My co-host Mike Shantz hadn't seen the movie in 30 years, and he remembered every word of the opening crawl.
Wow!
Which tells you about the kind of person that I'm dealing with.
Yeah. So you're saying that these so you think anybody like even if they had like a deep Cockney accent could just do an American.
I've seen some horrid ones. I mean, there's a show. I think it was called MI6 over here, and it's an actress you'll know because she was in Rogue One. Mon Mothma in Rogue One. First name's Genevieve. I'm blanking on a second name. And it was a show called MI5, which is called Spooks in the UK, and she was playing a CIA agent, and her accent was absolutely terrible. And then, you see her in, I think it was the sitcom Episodes.
Okay.
Where she played a character, and her accent was fine. So I think a lot of it has to do with who's dialect coaching, whether you have like a decent person on set, because listening to actors talking about how they form the accent, a lot of it is dialect coaches stopping them mid-scene and saying, no, say it again, say it again, say it again until they get it right. So I think a lot of it is down to just drilling.
If you study enough,
yeah.
you got the Kings, but you can adjust it to the rebels.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
There was a meme the other day. Let's see if I can find it, but it was basically like, for 4th of July, it was like, here's the things we would have if we had lost the war, and they were just basically saying like, mandatory waiting periods for guns and like Medicare and stuff like that. It's like, are we really that happy? Oh yeah, here it is. Things we would have if the British had won: 24-week abortion access, reasonable government restrictions, healthcare for 100%, online poker everywhere. So, happy 4th of July.
The difference is you wouldn't know you were happy. Because in Britain we have just a constant sense of doom and gloom. So that's the payoff. There's always a trade-off,
There's always you don't know what you know. One of the cool things that happened recently is we got all those cool pictures from the new telescopes that are showing us like 1 billion different galaxies out there, which, just makes you realize how sort of mathematically insignificant we are, Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, hey man, don't stress out. We're this is something that I say on the other show all the time. We're stuck to this giant ball by magic, and we're hurling through space surrounded by other giant balls through an infinite number of other galaxies, and we're like this much of the existence of the universe. So don't take yourself too seriously. Love the people that are around you. Make some art.
Yep.
Have fun. Raise your kids.
Don't be racist.
Try not to be a piece of shit.
Yeah, racism looks even more pointless when you're looking through the.
Well, yeah, like we're literally all just stuck together on this rock by magic, and we shouldn't really give a fuck that much, and just love each other, man. It could all be over in a second, and it will be at some point. So, might as well podcast, talk about stuff that we love, talk about the movies that make us happy, and things like that. As a content creator and as somebody who has dabbled in live shows, watch-alongs, live performances and stuff like that, how do you find the balance of wanting to put yourself out there versus sort of knowing where you're going to get the most eyeballs and views and sort of and channeling your energy towards that? Do you struggle with that?
Yeah, I suppose I do. I mean, it's changed over time. I think, the Godfather one part was born very much out of a kind of an artist panic. Like, I can't do live theater. What do I do? Of course, me being me, my solution is to do a real-time version of the Godfather on my own. But that was the sense of needing to be out there, needing to be producing content and sustaining it was very important then. But in doing a show like The Godfather one part, it kind of you sort of grow out of that, and then you start to think about more targeted projects, and then when things start to open up, you begin to see you've got more options. You can start doing hybrids of virtual and in person, or just keep both going in parallel. So yeah, I think it is a constant struggle. I'm less obsessed with just getting myself out there for the sake of it now, and I'm embarking on a few projects which is just about taking my time, making sure they're ready and in the right place before I release them. But in the past, it's been way more cavalier, and actually trying to eliminate any gap between doing and releasing. So, the Godfather one part, it would be like I'd film it on the day, and then I'd put it out in the middle of the afternoon. And I would rarely get more ahead than say one day or 1 or 2 days, and it would just be like And that's liberating in some senses because, you know, you go, okay, I got to get this done. You know, I've got to film this. I've got 20 minutes before people start coming back into the house. I've just got to, you know, I've just got to get it done. How can I represent this scene from The Godfather? Oh, I'll go and get my son's toy truck from outside and do the causeway scene.
I love the props the best.
This is, I believe. Here's a good quiz. It's like, what scene is this from The Godfather? This has got to be.
Is this
Fishes?
Yeah, this, I was saying, this is Lucas sleeps with the fishes, right? This is a Sicilian message.
Yeah, this is.
Let's find out.
This is my idea of.
It's a Sicilian message.
There you go.
It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes. Ding.
The film itself is
Boom now.
playing in front of me as I'm doing all this as well.
So you're
reacting to the film in real time. That was part of. I would write it out like I would write each chunk out and kind of perform it, and I would just go over it a few times so that I knew the order of it. But I'd also have the film in front of me because it was the only way you could get the timing right.
Yeah, no, I look. It hit me at it hit like my sweet spot, like really good of stuff that I like. I like avant-garde theater. I like one-man shows. I like stuff that's out there. I like people that put themselves out there, and I love The Godfather. So, you know, for me, it was like, this is awesome. This is awesome that somebody would think to do this, and even better, execute it. My favorite was McCluskey, the Ducky. That was my favorite, and then you doing the Don scenes. That was my favorite. But it's also great to kind of get behind, like, you had this idea, and then you're like, what is this? There was like 75? How many did they come out to? 70. You had to make 70 videos. It was a 2-month process. There's also a lot of commitment to that, right? There's like at any point were you just like, this isn't worth it, or were you ever tempted to bail on it early? Or once you started, were you?
I took some significant breaks, I remember. But I mean, you know, we're talking about like, maybe, you know, after we realized that we were going to be in lockdown.
This is 2 years ago when lockdown was just starting up, right?
And and you know, it was after the realization that we're not getting it out of this anytime soon. So you know, it was. We
might have to stay inside for a year.
Yeah, it was like, hey, this is my creative endeavor for the day. Of course, you know, I'm such a lunatic that, you know, I did like live Godfather 1 part live, where I did like the deleted scenes just live in the middle of the day. It's like, why? It's already an overly ambitious project. Why are you adding this extra dimension?
I was a fan, Tom, but even I had to miss that one because I was.
Fine. No, yeah, you're in good company. But it was. But at the time, you know, not to get too like sentimental about it, but at the time, you know, it was keeping me going because I had this daily goal I could attain that was just about being creative and producing something every single day. And you know, I'm grateful to be in a place now, and the world is in a place now where I don't feel like I need that as much. But at the time, it was just acute. It was like, I literally can't be doing anything else. Like I can't be rehearsing for a show. I can be writing stuff, but where's it gonna go? You know. And so this was the perfect solution for the time, but it also made me realize that you know, I didn't want to spend the rest of my life like doing a daily.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you know, doing a daily video.
And from my end, you know, I began when we realized that we were going to be locked in our homes for at least like 6 months to a year. I was like, well, all my movie projects are on hold. I can't do this. My main goal now is I was taking care of my father at the time. My main goal is to stay inside, stay safe, and I started, figuring out, what, I'll stream, I'll do interviews, I'll do stuff like that. I'll go back to podcasting, and seeing you do that kind of also sparked my mind, which is like, oh, there's people out there doing cool stuff, and what I'm going to do is reach out to them and try to have interesting conversations that'll allow me to have human interactions with people, create some content, get myself out there, and stay creative during the pandemic. So I'm glad you did it, because it was also a reason that it was when I first started making my list of like, okay, who do I have in my circle of friends that's like, semi-established or that has a little bit something going on that I can talk to him, who's got ongoing projects. I know people from all different walks of life, and then one of the people that I was like, oh, this guy's doing something cool. I definitely want to talk to him. So, congrats. I know we talked about this a lot the last time we had you on, but that we weren't live. So again, I want to tell you that it was a really great job that you did on that, and people should go watch that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I just changed my desktop background, and this is what it changed it to.
There we go.
We'll save that one for when we talk Godfather 2 on your pod.
Quarantine,
Yeah, it starts off with a quarantine scene, coincidentally.
That could be 2020 that day. It
could be. It was like it's 119 years later, and we're still in the same thing. Let me see right now. Keithan says the offer is amazing. Thanks for stopping by, Keithan Jones. He's going to be a featured artist at Comic-Con this upcoming year. I just saw that you have on Friday, I believe at 6 o'clock, about his comic book company. And I will be there at your on Friday, wherever that is. Mr. Jones, thank you for stopping by. We're talking The Offer. We're talking Godfather, with Mr. Tom Steward, who did the Godfather 1 part, the recreation of the entire Godfather saga as a one-man show, and as well as the Everything sequel. Keithan says some of the best acting I've seen in a long while. I did think the acting was great. I just saw that Lou Ferrigno was Luca Brasi. I was like, I didn't even know he lost himself in that role. I loved it. He did a great job.
It was an inspired choice, yeah.
Yeah, the cast.
The kind of actor, if you were making The Godfather today, would absolutely be Brasi.
The casting director absolutely deserves an Emmy on that show, because they did an incredible job, from Miles Teller, kind of coming into his own, to Matthew Good as Robert Evans, Juno Temple from Ted Lasso, Justin Chambers, Giovanni Ribisi, everybody. Meredith Garriston as Ally McGraw, Colin Hanks as Lapinus, Anthony Ippolito, we already talked about, as Al Pacino. I guess Michael Gandolfini was in it as well.
He was a prospective Paramount buyer.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. He was a guy that was from Texas, right? That he told him to go fuck himself at the end. Lou Ferrigno, yeah, the cast was incredible.
Burns Gorman, who's an actor I've always liked.
Yeah, Michael Rispoli as Tommy Lucchese, Giovanni Ribisi, obviously. Yeah, the cast was robust and incredibly well put together.
When you see a Sopranos mob boss in there, you can relax.
Yeah, they went authentic with it. Now, we would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about last week. Jimmy Kahn, obviously Sonny Corleone, passed away, which was not Italian, but a.
As David Chase will always point, speaking of the Sopranos, David Chase will always point out, it's like, whenever he's asked about The Godfather, it's like, well, first of all, Marlon Brando and Jimmy Kahn are not Italian. Everyone in The Sopranos is supposed to be Italian.
Is Italian, yeah. But I mean, from Misery to Thief to the what do you want? Just his body of work, incredible. What did his performance and his kind of career as an actor mean to you as an actor?
Well, I mean, he's one of those it's interesting because he's a leading man more often than not, but I still think of him as the ultimate character actor. And maybe that's his generation. Maybe that idea of the idea of leading man and character actor gets a bit more fluid in the 70s. You could say that about Pacino or De Niro as well. They're equally at home, just with character parts as carrying a movie. But I mean, you mentioned Misery, and I happened to see that again recently, and it's a wonderful, as Paul Sheldon, it's a wonderful performance because he's so restricted, and for an actor like James Caan, those kind of restrictions cannot be easy. Because when he gets the chance to let loose as an actor, he will. And so I love the idea of confining him into a chair on a bed for the entire movie, because it tests the mettle of what kind of an actor you are, and he wins on all counts. He can just one.
Did he win an Oscar for that? No, right?
No. Kathy Bates did.
Kathy Bates won, but not
she was at least nominated. But then just one gesture, he can own the entire scene. There's I think one of the greatest moments in the movie is he gives Kathy Bates the finger. He's sitting in the window and is being forced to write a terrible novel, and she walks past him and she's being all cheery and gives the finger like that. And it's just great seeing an actor like James Caan, is capable of so much big bravado, be reduced to small. But that's how good he was. I think you could literally make him do anything. Look at a movie like Elf.
Right.
And look at the role in that film. I mean, the
he definitely
not a traditional comedian or even comic actor, and yet I don't think that movie works without him.
No, he definitely transitioned from movie star leading man to A+ ensemble player.
Yeah.
Because you don't even remember, he was in movies like The Program, or a bunch of other movies where Bottle Rocket, Honeymoon in Vegas.
Honeymoon, yeah, I did forget.
And it's just those movies aren't his movies, but he plays a very pivotal character in an incredibly incredibly good way. Like you said, Elf. He's perfect in that movie, and
he really is, yeah. And he's so good at playing off other actors as well, and I think that's why The Godfather works so well is the dynamic between all the characters. It's interesting. I was going back through YouTube and looking at scenes from the Godfather with Santino, and my favorite scenes are the ones where he's not actually the center of the scene. It's not it's not a scene that just has him in, or where he's kind of taking the spotlight. It's scenes in which he's just kind of mostly in the background, like the flashback at the end of Godfather Part 2, where he's just one of many people at the table, but you can't keep your eyes off him. And I think that's, and he created this character, Santino Corleone, Sonny Corleone. He created this character that is iconic separate from The Godfather as an entity. It's like Sonny getting shot on the causeway, beating up Carlo with the trash cans, all these images. It's like a lot of which is as much to do with him as an actor as the way the character is written. He's not in as much as if you've never seen the film, he's not in as much of the movie as you think he's going to be, but he leaves a lasting impression in every scene. There's that great story of him, he in the house where they were filming the scenes just after the war is declared, and that they're turning it into the house into a fortress. There was a walking stick on set, and he just picked it up and started playing with it, and it's in the scene, and he carries it into the scene, and there's no big meaning behind it. It's just something that he picked up that was a prop that was that was there, and you know, the stories of Brando doing the same, you know, both in this movie and in other movies. And I
The
think
Brando thing with the cat in the office
in
is
the
awesome.
cat, and and I really like it. Just he's so fluid in the scenes. He completely gets the movie and what role he's supposed to be playing in it as well. You know, it's really important that there's these huge contrasts between each of the Don's sons. So he has to play his character to the hilt. And I think he often regretted. I think when he saw the cut, he felt like they left out some of Sonny's complexity out of the movie. He felt that some of that found the cutting room floor, which is interesting because when I watch the movie, I feel like, yeah, you don't have the scenes to show that, but you still show it. It's amazing.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they left the hothead and the whole part that all that in. There's probably a little bit more subtlety in his part, but it makes the character. And you know, what do you think? It's like the army. You shoot him from a mile away. You got to get up close and bada bing, bullet runs all over your Ivy League suit. Just help me win, Tom. Pops had Jenko, I get you. I love me some James Caan. I read the story about him on Twitter the other day, and it was basically somebody that worked at a video store like in the 90s, and James Caan and somebody other like Hollywood actors would come in and rent videos, and James Caan would show up and just kind of throw a movie on the counter and be like, "What's this about?" And then he'd be like, "Oh, X, Y, and Z, and this and that." And he grabbed a copy of Rollerball, and he's like, he throw it out there. He's like, "What movie is this?" He's like, "It's Rollerball." He's like, "What's it say? What's it about?" And the video store guy was like, "James Caan stars in." He's like, "Jesus, it's one of mine."
That's wonderful.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I thought it was hilarious and definitely awesome for what we know of him as a character. So, yeah, rest in peace, James Caan, man. An incredible actor. He went from a leading man to a seminal movie. I wish there was a little bit more about him in The Offer. I mean, other than them telling him to go a little crazy on Carlo. That's not what we rehearsed. Even though there's a giant whiff kick that's in The Godfather, it's always one of the only discrepancies in there is that he does do a phantom punch and kick on Carlo, but apparently he was roughing him up there for real a little bit. So you'd love to think that was true.
Yes, it's that does seem like it might have been a little bit of a liberty. I think that's more wish fulfillment than anything.
Yeah.
I think that's what everyone wanted to do. But
they
sure it happened.
They retconned a little bit of the female empowerment into it, and a little bit of that, because I think it's a modern series, so you sort of, it makes sense to add some of those elements in it to make it a little bit more plausible, while still trying to stay true to the era. Mm-hmm. So it's a tough line for any streamer or modern production company to do that, because you can't just just kind of go full on, "Oh, this is the era." It's just like, no, well, we want to see a little bit of the struggle and a little bit of like people, even during that era, being aware that what was happening was sort of wrong, right? That's kind of what the line.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think of it in terms of, well, we've moved on even from this, from Mad Men. There was a series that was as popular because of how well written and acted and written it, how well written, directed, and acted it was, as much as, the vicarious thrill of living in a time when you could get away with a lot more in terms of like personal behavior.
Right.
And now a show, that's a fairly recent show, but I don't think you could make that kind of show now where you're actively enjoying, like, wanting to be in a period of history which is, deficient in lots of ways with what we know now of society. But there's a little bit of that in The Offer. They're kind of leaning into a little bit of, I guess what you get in The Sopranos as well is sort of like, wouldn't it be nice if you had your own personal like mob fixer, who could just cut corners and get you what you need. And then so much of The Sopranos is about that, and they handle it so well. It's like, you have this instant justice if you want it, but you have to make the moral decision about, can you handle it? Can you handle calling on Tony Soprano? Can you handle calling on Don Corleone?
Keithan says you can if it's good. Yeah, I guess it all depends on the execution, right? There's nothing you can't broach or stuff like that as long as you do it the
I
right way.
don't think so. I mean, I don't know if those shows get greenlit though on a major streamer like that now, unless you're like a transphobic comedian, in which case you can do it.
I think it depends on the showrunner. Honestly, I think that there's certain showrunners that they'll trust with stuff like that, and then others that are just, or you're gonna get a bunch of notes, etc. from everybody. And then you mentioned The Sopranos. So again, Tony Sirico, Polly Walnuts from The Sopranos, again passed away this last week. He was one of the conspicuous absences from Talking Sopranos. I think the only people they didn't have on was him, and I think the guy who played Uncle June.
Dominic Kinney, who I've actually met.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I met him he was performing. I was visiting New York. This is what'll be like 2000. It was just before the final series. It says they were making the final series of Sopranos, because I remember he said Davey's gonna write you a good script. I was like as if he's writing for me personally, which was just lovely to hear. But he was performing in a basement bar on Broadway on Monday night when it was dark on Broadway, and he did some of his Italian folk songs, and he did some more sort of vaudeville numbers. And I got to meet him afterwards. Saw the show and got to meet him afterwards, and he was really lovely.
That's awesome.
There was an awesome memory. He was always my favorite character from The Sopranos, so it was great to see.
Well, R.I.P. Tony Sirico. Also, with a lot of these Bob shows and The Godfather and stuff like that, there's always that element of the reality of it is that some of these people were connected. Tony Sirico had it written into his contract that he could never be made to play a rat. His character who could never become an informant. He was really about that life, and he also was somebody that was a little connected during the 70s and 80s, and when he says that line, "I made it through the Colombo Wars by the skin of my nuts," he's like, he was actually being real about that. So. Yeah. Another great character actor, although he didn't really do much other than the Sopranos. But sometimes all you need is one big role, right? I mean,
well, he'd been working, as stand-ins and bit parts, and he kind of started The Sopranos that way because he has a line in the pilot, but he's not a named character. There's no sense that he's part of the inner circle in the pilot of The Sopranos, but. It's just, I think it's testament to how good Tony Sirico is that they built the character around what he did with that one line, and turned it into what I think is probably the most developed character in the whole series. I mean, if you think about it in relation to Silvio, who just he just is Silvio. He doesn't necessarily go anywhere character-wise. It's just, and you don't want him to, right?
No.
He's what you want him to be. But you think about where Paulie goes in the 6 seasons, it's just extraordinary.
Yeah, my favorite is when he goes to see the reader or the psychic that starts seeing all the people that he killed. He asks, "Is it still itched? The poison ivy? Yeah. This is some black magic satanic shit." He gets all pissed. Who told you that?
I shared a clip. I just shared a clip, which I think is from the first season. They're having dinner and they're talking about blowjobs, and he says to Sylvia, "Do you remember your first blowjob?"
He's like,
and so he was like, "Yeah, sure." And he goes, "How long did it take for the guy to come?" And then everyone kind of laughs. And it's like a half joke. Then he turns to Tony, who is here.
You would ask him.
He repeats the joke, and I think it's. Again, he had that, and then there's a follow up to that scene much later on when he and Tony are hiding out on a boat, and he makes him some pasta, and then he does his little signature laugh at the end of the line, and then Tony tells him he just should get tested for Tourette's because it's hard. You know, it's like it's.
He tells him, "Remember when is the weakest form of conversation."
Yeah,
he talks to shit.
It's just so sad going from that stage where he's just this annoying guy that you put up with, but everyone likes, to this guy.
What do you say? What do you know?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. A big fan. But although the more you watch it, The Sopranos was a comedy. I mean, they're at a hideout and they're hiding away. They're going to the mattresses and they come out of hiding and Tony comes out with a fucking Virginia ham under his arm. Like it's so much of it that's a comedy. And I love it. I love that.
I love it too. Yeah.
Keithan asks, do you guys think GF3 is better than people originally thought? I do. And we talked about this, I think, before, but I think Godfather 3 suffers from the time between Godfather 2 and Godfather 3. It suffers from having to compare against two of the top 20 movies of all time. Mm-hmm. So when you're the third movie and the first two are, like, iconic, the degree of difficulty on that jump is incredible. Joey Zaza. I
don't have as much problem with Joey Zaza as you do.
It just feels like a draft one name. Like when I write a script, like the names that I write for people are like horrible. Like if I'm like, this guy's name is Joey Bag of Donuts, and this is Emily after a girl I dated in 8th grade, and this person is named, Baxter, like my dog, like.
Yeah.
And then later you go back and refine, and it's like, all right, we need an over-the-top Italian gangster, sort of a different family. Joey Zaza. Sure, we'll go back and change it later, and then all of a sudden he's like a major mobster. So
they might as well have just called him Fat Tony.
Yeah, it could have just been Fat Tony or the Weasel. It couldn't have had her. So that's what I think. I think the Immobiliari storyline. This Pope's got more, more enemies. There's iconic stuff there. Every time I'm out, they pull me back in. The relationship, the Winona Ryder casting, the Sofia Coppola thing. Not so much nepotism, but as just like necessity.
Yeah.
It had a lot of things going against it, and even then, if Godfather 1 and Godfather 2 didn't exist, and we're just watching a movie about this aging gangster that had to kill his brother and that's trying to get his life in order, and Sonny's indiscretion from Godfather 1 is running the show, and stuff like that. There's a lot to like about Godfather 3.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot to like about it. There's aspects of it I like. I have a theory. I have a theory. I have a feeling you gravitate to one storyline over the other. Like I've always enjoyed the mob stuff more than the international conglomerate storyline. It's
kind of like Star Wars for the trade. You know what Star Wars needs? More Trade Federation stuff. Can we get more senators talking about Immobiliari and the Pope and conglomerates and stuff?
I think it's better than the reputation that precedes it. Definitely, I think about half the movie works, but I agree that it's always worth seeing. What I don't agree with is what Coppola's been trying to do in the past few years, which is to sort of spin The Godfather 3 as a coda to the if you see the introduction to the Godfather coda on at least on the streaming platform, I've never seen it in the theater. He comes out and said, we never wanted to make like a full chapter. It was just a way of wrapping things up. I'm like, bullshit. It wouldn't be the same length as the other movies if this was what it was. He's just he's just trying to spin it as something else. I think they failed to make a full part 3. But it's an interesting failure, and it's got some.
Was there cut footage in Coda?
No.
Or they just reordered? It's just reordered, right?
Just reordered and taken out. Actually, it's shorter than the original cut.
Is the helicopter massacre still in?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Lucky coat. My lucky coat.
Bridget Fonda still in there? They didn't cut her out, did they?
No. I mean, this is the like when I saw the coda, I thought like this is definitely a move in the right direction, but you've not been ruthless enough. It's sort of like you take voiceover off one part and then leave it in another part. It's like, no, all the voiceover has to go. You can't have some voiceover and then take voiceover. You just like just take away all the voiceover. So I wish they'd gone a little bit further in the direction they were going, which is just to kind of tidy up some of the excesses around the edge, some of the frills and bells and whistles that the movie doesn't need. But they don't go far enough, and if you don't have any new footage, there's a limit to what you can do. Because it really was. I saw his Coppola's special edition of the Cotton Club, and it completely redefined that movie. Like completely, it was the great movie it was always supposed to be, but never was because the studio made him cut out most of Gregory Hines' stuff. So I was really excited when I saw Coda before I realized he doesn't actually have anything new to show. It's all going to be real. I mean, it's really top and tailing as well. It's like the first scene and the last scene are the biggest changes. So everything in between is kind of as was.
Yeah, I didn't see a need to revisit it myself.
It's like COVID. He had the time, right?
It was just like, it was
like
still.
Stallone. He's like, I got nothing. My film project's been cancelled. I'll go and recut Rocky IV. I mean, it's like if you've got the time to do it, there's worse things you can do.
Listen, I've had to go back and do like a cold-blooded edit and cut of movies that I did before. One of the things that I did during the pandemic is recut a pilot episode for a show called Insecurity, and I had to go basically, okay, we can't reshoot any more things. All the actors have moved on and stuff like that. This was several years ago, so you got to take what you have and you have to just take a hatchet to it and just get rid of anything that doesn't mean. We had a whole bit in there that because we had filmed it right after the first of the Star Wars sequels. So episode 7, and there was this whole thing. It's like, why doesn't Kylo Ren just choke the bitch with the Force and stuff like this? And it was like, all right, there's already like 4 other Star Wars movies that come out. This is not a relevant conversation. We need to just cut that out. So it is that's what I'm saying. Keithan says that's what I didn't like about the Batman voiceover in the beginning and then nothing. The Batman, yeah.
We talk about that all the time on the podcast. Like a sign that you're watching a bad movie if you like start with voiceover and you never hear it again, or you only hear it at the end. It only happens at the end of the movie. It's like chances are you're in a bad movie if that's happening because they've either forgotten that they had voiceover, or they're adding it into the game to solve lots of storytelling problems.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that I just saw. Okay, here's a trivia question for you. What Godfather 3 reference was made into a Wu-Tang Clan song?
That's more Wu-Tang Clan trivia.
It's more Wu-Tang. It's more Wu-Tang. Wu-Tang Godfather 3 hybrid trivia. No. Raekwon had a song called Immobiliari, which is
of all the things.
of all the things they have
the least exciting aspects. I guess maybe that was the challenge. It's like, how do we make international PayPal financing interesting?
This was something the New York Times had recently. I think it was probably because of the offer. It's like, select all the squares with rats.
That is fantastic.
This is, of course, from The Departed. These are from The Subway. And then we have Paulie, that, Old Man Tezio, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Carlo. Match the murder, select the matching pairs. Strangled at a bar, that was obviously Luca Brasi, shot in the eye. Mo Green. Captain McCluskey, shot in restaurant. See, this is easy. What is it?
But looking at those, I would happily see this in any arrangement. I'd like to see Mo Green strangled at a bar. I'd like to see. I'd definitely like to see Luca Brasi shot in the eye in a massage parlor.
There you go.
Quite a scene.
That would be better. What is he teaching Michael about cooking? How to prepare meatballs for 20 people. How to prepare meatballs with clam sauce for 20 people. How to prepare vegetarian lasagna. I don't need.
Yes.
Okay. Select all the squares with Coppolas. Here's another good one. Coppola. There you go. Brad Pitt was a Coppola?
No.
I don't think so. I think that was
can't be.
the hat recap. Match the hat with K. K's hats. That's good. Why is the dead horse in this bed? For a good look at the races. It's just a dream. It's shorthand for making someone an offer they can't refuse. Okay. New York Times. Oh, select all the squares with oranges. Okay. Well done, New York Times. Well done with your.
Yeah, no, that's a really witty.
Oh, okay, this is a good one. Sorry, I just saw this one. The week according to Apollonia. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There you go. That was the best. I don't know. I don't know what the Godfather would have been without Italy. So I'm glad they found the budget for that.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I agree. I have heard dissent on that. I've heard people who would happily lose that sequence, but because of it's slowing down the movie. And I guess in principle I agree, but I have no problem with it, and it's especially when you look at the first two films together, I think you definitely need that sequence if you're going to continue the story.
Yeah, I do think that it was kind of a little funny that they used that as a major plot point. Like I wonder if they really. I mean, I understand the intricacies of a movie budget, and sometimes you have to make tough decisions and stuff like that. But the fact that it came from his perspective is kind of like what you said, right? It could be like a Queen type deal where it's kind of like a Wikipedia article, and it's written from the point of view of the person that wants to make themselves look like the fixer. The other thing that I was going to say is that okay, The Longest Yard is a decent movie. But if I have the chance of producing that or The Godfather fucking 2, after I just won an Oscar, after I just won the Oscar for producing Godfather 1, and this is my first time producing a major motion picture, I'm going to jump ship to go make a movie with Burt Reynolds in prison.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. This guy Al Ruddy has some balls.
Yeah, and I mean it's set up in, I don't know if this is true in real life, but it's set up in the offer that it's just too easy. It's too much of a layup already, right? I mean it's
right.
Like it's a slam dunk before it's even written. I think that's what this TV show's telling you. That's the reason why he doesn't want to do it. But that's just like counterintuitive to you as a Godfather fan. Like, it's just like you're gonna have a chance to be involved in one of the greatest sequels of all time. And the idea you have for it is not a bad one. Like that's the weird.
He just won an Oscar for the first part.
Yeah.
That part was weird because I think at the end they were like, "This is pretty good, and and this is only a limited series. We're not gonna do this again. We're not gonna do part 2 of this." Although in a certain aspect, you could see how, especially if the show does well, there will be a push to say, well, we can just sort of change it into a show about Hollywood during this time frame. Yeah. And it could just be a show about the Paramount lot and the movies that were getting made at that time, and they could do sort of a True Detective, maybe bring in some new characters. What's the next movie that got made after this that, even have Godfather 2 as the center of it, but also expand out to other areas, blah, blah, blah. You still got the guy who played Puzo and Francis, etc. You still got a lot of the major players. You don't have Ruddy anymore. Was the so I kind of wondered if they added the Neri, Michael's bodyguard in 2 as sort of like an Al Ruddy type character, because the names were so similar. Ruddy, Neri, kind of like, I don't know if maybe if there was a thing there.
That makes total sense. Yeah, I mean he's I guess because there's nowhere to go with Neri after 1 in terms of the book, so it's all invention after that. So that makes sense that they would base it on Ruddy, because his relationship to Michael's totally different in 2. In 1 it's he's the ex-cop who's part of the baptism massacre. But in 2 and 3 he's his closest confidant and his fixer, and his number 1 point man. So yeah, I completely buy that.
All right. Well, we have been chatting live with Tom Steward of Lonesome Whistle Productions. You can catch him on Twitter. You can also find the Everything Sequel podcast, Everything Sequel podcast on Twitter as well. And you can check up on him and his partners talking about movies that are important to them. You can also catch him at the Onstage Playhouse here in Chula Vista this summer. He might be doing Fringe next year. He'll be around. He's a working actor, and I think we're gonna. I mean, hey, pandemic's over, Tom. So we got some stuff that's coming up. I'm gonna try to find somewhere that we can work together.
Absolutely.
As well. Maybe we might have to throw whatever we do. We're gonna throw in some Godfather references. That's for sure. We'll figure out a way.
Anyway, I'll do it without even knowing I'm doing it, so it's fine.
I want to play one more clip, just a random one here of you doing The Godfather before we go here, and I do have one last thing.
It's a little dangerous.
If you're worried about the security of your million, the Italians will guarantee it.
Are you telling me that
The Italians are gonna
guarantee our investment? Wait a minute.
Got a part of my son.
I have a sentimental weakness for my children, and I spoil them, as you can see. They talk when they should listen. Anyway, Senor Salazzo, I know it's final. I wish to congratulate
We'll get to that question right now, Keith.
I know you'll do very well. And
that's not my real mustache, bro.
This is real.
Your interest is that coincide with mine.
Thank you. Santino, come here.
Come here. That's where you tell Santino not to be a schmuck and fucking. Don't ever tell anybody outside the family what you're thinking. All right, we got one last question from Keith. And who wins in a fight, the Corleones or the Pinky Blinders?
Oh, I don't know. I lived in Birmingham briefly, so my inclination is to say the Peaky Blinders, because there's just less honor among those particular gangsters. I think the Peaky Blinders are definitely rougher. I'll illustrate. Hang on a minute.
Go ahead. We are.
If we're gonna bring it up, then.
Oh, okay. There you go. Wait, you got the razor blades underneath there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Always. That's why I stopped wearing.
Because you cut yourself.
I cut myself. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the other part of the the Godfather, is that it's a very glamorized look at mob life, and Peaky Blinders less so. So I think they'd fight dirty, right? And at least and it also depends what era of the Corleones we're talking about, because Michael will do literally anything, will kill literally anybody in any way to achieve his aims. Don Corleone, has limitations.
I think the only timeline they could line up with is like early, like 30s, 40s is really the only timeline. So that would be young Vito with Tessio, Hyman Roth, Clemenza, as they would.
Give him a run for them.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the Corleones. If they met in the 1930s and it was like the Pinky Blinders came over on a ship and they were battling out. Hey, I think I saw that movie. Was that Gangs of New York? It was pretty much Gangs of New York. It was the British gangs and the American gangs. You just changed the Irish to Italian and you got pretty much the same war.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as you know, Mr. Stewart, we always finish our interviews with one last bit for all my guests.
Okay.
So as it is now, and I don't know if we got to do one the first time you were on, but it is time for bracket bit.
All right, boys, you guys know what that sound means. It's time for bracket bit. Bracket bit. Bracket bit. Woo, 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 woo. Bracket bit. Bracket bit. Woo, 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 woo.
Fireside Chat.
It is the end of the podcast, the end of the stream, which means I can freely smoke because I don't have to worry about messing up words. And we do a bracket bit. Since, Mr. Tom Stewart, you are an expert on all things Godfather. Well, sort of. And we have talked a lot about mob movies, The Godfathers, etc. Our bracket bit for today is going to be The Godfather versus everyone. I'm going to give you a character from The Godfather, and then I'm going to give you a character for another major motion picture or genre film that is gangster. And you're going to tell me which one moves on to the next round. Right. Now, you can say, which one of these two characters do I identify with the most? Which one of these two characters would I rather have its own spin-off movie? Which one of those would fight if they were leading a gang in a gunfight? Whatever you want, the methodology is up to you, all right?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. In the first round, we have Don Vito Corleone versus Ace Rothstein from Casino.
Don Vito.
Don Vito moves on. That's an easy. It's a first round matchup.
I like how you've gone with the Senator Geary spelling. Don Vito Corleone.
I did this fast. I mean, both of these characters were played by Pacino at some point. I mean, by De Niro. Yeah. So that's another interesting wrinkle there. De Niro. I mean, Casino, another epic, gangster movie. Everyone's favorite, Joey Zaza versus another De Niro part, Jimmy Conway from Goodfellas. Sorry.
Another no-brainer, Jimmy Conway, all the way.
Jimmy Conway, he's right. Neil McCauley, another De Niro part from Heat, or Fredo Corleone.
Against my better judgment, I'm going with Fredo. Not that I think that he could outwit Neil McCauley, but I want to see more of Fredo. I want to see less of Neil McCauley, even in the film Heat.
Can we talk about an actor with a shorter run but more impactful in his body of work than John Cazale?
No.
Like Dog Day Afternoon, Godfather 1, Godfather 2. Basically, every movie that he was in was nominated, was won Best Picture.
Right.
Right. And he was an incredible character actor. A part like Fredo Corleone is hard to pull off. A lot of actors shy away from parts like that, but this guy knocked into it. All right.
He made Fredo what it is, and again, as with James Caan, iconic.
All right, Sonny Lospecchio from A Bronx Tale or Sollozzo.
Sollozzo's good with a knife. I'm going to go with Sollozzo.
Sollozzo's good with a knife. He's a top drug man.
Yeah.
From Pulp Fiction, he does not look like a bitch. Marcellus Wallace or Don Fanucci.
Oh God, these are both. This is hard because I immediately think that these two.
The bracket bit is created to create maximum pain. This is an experiment. You are the test subject.
The first time I've had cause to pause because they both get their ass handed to them. One of them quite literally.
There is no more me and you, but your LA privileges are revoked.
But only one of them comes out of it with dignity, and that's Marcellus Wallace.
All right. Well, it's a tough way to get dignity. The way he comes out of it.
It's a tough way, but he handled that situation a lot better than Don Fanucci handled his.
Yeah, absolutely. We have Frank Lucas, played by Denzel in in a movie, or Frank Pentangeli.
You put
They
Frank-
said Michael Corleone did this, and they said Michael Corleone did that, and I said sure, why not? But it was all lies, all of it. My second favorite.
in the lobby.
My other favorite line is what are you they're drinking? They're drinking champagne cocktails.
Yeah, that was
And you're telling me how to run my family? He said canapes. It was a rich crap. I'm sorry. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
it's a Jewel line, but explaining Clemenza's death as going, and then Willie Cheese say, that was no.
That was no heart attack.
Yeah, you put Frank Pentangeli in any bracket, he's definitely not going to be. He's definitely not going to be beaten by Frank Lucas.
All right. Frank Pentangeli moves on.
All
right.
We recently saw Frank Pentangeli and Michael B. Gazzo in Sudden Impact in the Dirty Harry series. He turns up playing basically Frank Pentangeli, uncredited in that movie. One of the biggest surprises you'll ever get.
The other, you could do a whole episode about just all the people that appear in every mob movie, just the Godfather to Sopranos to Goodfellas to Casino connection. All right, we caught Connie / Vincent Corleone as a tandem, so that's Connie Corleone as well as the bastard child of Sonny Corleone, Vincent, and we got, because they're essentially the same character, Tommy from Goodfellas and Nicky Santoro from Casino, which basically are, the same. So this is a 2-on-2 matchup here.
You see what each one of these is a liability in each of the brackets. So I take Connie without Vincent, just as I take Tommy.
Yeah, that's why they're a duo. That's why you had to do it.
Tommy without Nicky, but I mean, Tommy's a cowboy. I'm gonna go with Tommy.
Keithan said Fredo can't beat Frank Lucas. Oh yeah, Frank Lucas did mastermind the heroin trade in New York in the 70s. So I'm gonna agree with you there.
Frank Pentangeli he's susceptible to.
Yeah. Okay.
Frank Pentangeli makes me being strangled.
All right. So we're Connie and Tommy. Connie or Tommy? What are you going with?
Tommy.
Tommy. All right. Tommy and Nicky Santoro. That's a dangerous bet. All right. We got Clemenza, which I misspelled for some reason, or from Jersey, Tony Soprano.
Oh, I just for the pairing in the next round, Tony Soprano.
Tony Soprano. Jersey moves on. Jules Vincent from Pulp Fiction, Jules and Vincent from Pulp Fiction, or Sonny and Vincent Corleone. So this is kind of another combo. For some reason, we had Vincent on the other. Let's just make it Sonny then. Sonny or Jules?
Sonny. Now, if Vincent was in there again, I probably wouldn't have gone for it, but
True. We got Frank Costello from Departed, or Tessio.
I want a Tessio spinoff, so I'm going to go Tessio.
Tessio. The Tessio spinoff would be interesting.
And I like the idea of Sonny and Tessio going at it.
Okay, we got Mo Green or Mr. Blonde from Reservoir Dogs. The psycho Vega brother.
He made his bones swell. You were banging cheerleaders.
This might be an old Godfather sweep.
Yeah, I should probably go Mr. Blonde. I'm going to go Mr. Blonde.
You gonna go Mr. Blonde? He's got a lot of guns. Luca Brasi or from No Country for Old Men, Anton Chigurh. Two cold-blooded killers. One of them uses a
a cow killer.
A cow killer. Yeah.
That's the technical term. I'm gonna go Anton. I think
I think he moves a little bit better than Luca.
He certainly does. I don't really buy that Luca is the most feared hitman in New York.
Yeah, not when he moves like that. Like, you know, like you could walk away from Luca Brasi at a swift pace. I think you're good. You're just like, you know, you can just fast walk. All right.
I'm gonna go with the human Terminator.
All right. Two Miami legends: Hyman Roth or Tony Montana.
Hyman Roth, pure evil.
Hyman Roth is pure evil. I did tell you that
you know, either him or Lee Strasberg, one of the two.
Oh, okay, and if we do, if you do have me on the sequel to talk Godfather 2, yeah. I would like to act out the Hyman Roth part when he's talking to Michael, because I've forgotten most of it now because I used to do it, but whenever we'd be on set for like 14 hours or something like that, or we doing like a 48-hour project, and we'd be taking a break, eating coffee. I would do the like, you know, the Hyman Roth speech where he's like, the trucks supplied by your father.
Oh my God.
And then, and because it was always like, it was always to get to this is the business we have chosen line, you know, in as much as making a movie, and like, and there's not even a rest stop. I didn't ask who gave the order, because it was nothing to do with business. I said to myself, this is the business we have chosen. Anyway, I love doing that. That's how I get my troops riled up after a break and we have to start filming again. All right, Hyman Roth.
And it only nearly killed Lee Strasberg.
only. I mean, he put his money where his mouth is. You got, you know, if you write the book, you better be able to produce.
Right.
You know. All right, Tom Hagen or Kaiser Sose.
Well, I already know he's gonna win.
See, you're looking ahead. That's a classic bracket bit mistake. You should try to focus on the individual battles.
Okay.
If not, you start prognosticating against yourself.
Well, it's hard not to look ahead because Tom Hagen said Roth played this one beautifully, so he's already pre-beaten him. But Kaiser Soze is a more formidable foe than
Tom Hagen's. Maybe it was like Kaiser Soze's lawyer versus Tom Hagen. That might be a more fair matchup.
I mean, you know, there's no George Hamilton in there, but if it was Tom Hagen versus George Hamilton, it'd be different. Kaiser Soze.
Kaiser Soze. All right.
Out of me, Agent Kuyan.
From I mean, is it still cool to like Kaiser Soze? Can we watch? Is 7 still alright to watch?
Well, when Spacey's playing an evil person, it's fine.
It's fine. Okay.
When a human being, that's the problem.
American Beauty, not so much. That's kind of like, yeah. Also, this year, R.I.P. to the remix to Ignition. I was at a get together, and somebody had that on their playlist, and everybody just kind of started. Is he playing Remix to Ignition by R. Kelly right now? And everybody was kind of just looking at each other, and then the guy sort of realized, he's like, I gotta get this off my playlist. I can't play this song in public no more. So R.I.P. Remix to Ignition. You had a good run.
At least he clocked it straight away.
Yeah. That's hey, I had it on a couple of playlists. I had to be like, I guess this is a play alone in your car song. It's no longer a play it out loud during the summertime song. If you want to get your remix to Ignition, you got to do that by yourself. Keithan's got his money on Benny Blanco from the Bronx. Well, my boy Leguizamo. Benny Blanco from the Bronx. All right, so from The Wire, Stringer, Marlowe, Prop Joe, or Tattaglia Barzini connection.
They have a connection?
Well, I'm just saying, like, we're putting them together here.
Okay.
It was
Barzini all along.
Tattalia's a pimp. He never could have found Sonny.
I got to go for the Wire Repertory Company, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Stringer and Marlowe and Prop Joe, they always had some shit up their sleeve.
Stringer's the weak link there, I think.
Yeah, Marlo was cold-blooded. Marlo saw all the angles, and Prop Joe, he was Prop Joe, even though, you know.
Yeah, he invented the word cadaverous. So, what are you gonna do?
All right, we got Bill the Butcher from Gangs in New York, or we got Michael.
Michael. Yeah,
Michael, that's an easy.
I like the idea of Marlo versus Michael because that's just cold-blooded business instinct.
Cold-blooded assassins. All right, we're
because then you got Stringer with the business and Marlo with the cold-blooded killing. That's basically Michael.
the Corleones trying to take over Baltimore, and the lucrative heroin business. You know, there you go. There's our Godfather, The Wire fan fiction right there. Boom.
Love it.
50,000 views on YouTube overnight. All right. Moving on to the second round. Don Vito versus Jimmy Conway.
It's probably my favorite De Niro performance, but I'm still gonna go Don Vito because he's the reason for the season.
Fredo versus Salazzo.
I gotta give it to Salazzo.
Marcellus Wallace or Frank Pentangeli.
Just as like this bracket is just shambolic gangsters, right? Who get their ass handed to them. Oh, I'm not losing Frank at this stage. I'm keeping Frank. Sorry,
Frank.
Bing.
All right, no problem. Tony Soprano or Tommy/Nicky Santoro.
Tony.
Soprano. Sonny or Tessio.
Providing he's got his meds. If he's not got his lithium, we might be in trouble.
Not too much.
Tessio was always smarter. I'm gonna go with the smart move, Tessio.
Tessio is just always smarter. All right, Mr. Blonde or Anton Chigurh.
Anton Chigurh. It's going to be hard to beat. I don't even class him as a gangster. I think
he's just a killer. Mr. Blonde or we have Hyman Roth or Kaiser Soze.
Still Hyman Roth, yeah. I think.
Yeah.
Grandfatherly evil beats, true evil.
Well, there's a saying that says El diablo sabe más por viejo que por diablo. The devil knows more for being old than from being the devil.
There you go.
You get more wisdom from age than by being what have you. So I believe that one. All right, we got the Baltimore connection.
About my age.
Let everybody see the cake before you cut it.
Oh God, this is really hard.
Michael.
Because I tell you what, because I think Stringer will portray the other two. I'm going to go with Don and Michael. I think Michael knows how to control rebellion within his ranks, and I think Marlo and Prop would get screwed by Stringer.
All right. Solid foundation for your thinking there. All right, we're moving on. Let's see. I think we only have two non-Godfather characters here. So Godfather versus everyone, with the guy who did the Godfather one part. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it that we would have?
Closed my soul.
Who would have thunk it that we had mostly Godfather? So this is going to turn into like who your favorite Godfather character is pretty quickly here. All right, we got Don Vito or Salazzo.
Don Vito.
Wait, hold on.
Not based on the movie, but Don Vito.
Don Vito. All right.
Salazzo gets the better of him, but okay.
All right. Two gangsters, one from Brooklyn, one from Jersey. Pentangeli. Coincidentally, my late dog Tango, his full name was Tango Pentangeli.
Nice. Tony Soprano. It's a shame they got to meet here, but
Tessio or Anton?
Anton again. I think
Anton.
It's just like I just don't know how to. There's no question.
He's got a particular set of morals. He's he's the guy that he'll get mad at you and even after you're dead, go kill your wife. That's kind of like That's perseverance from a character.
He gives that kid some money for fixing him up.
Yeah, he's hey, I'm not. If anything, right? And then we have Hyman Roth or Michael Corleone. We saw this play out in GF.
Don Michael. So he's willing to go further than Hyman Roth.
All right, so now we got our final four. In this hypothetical world, Don Vito Corleone, running his family for some 80 years in New York, has to go up against this hotshot New Jersey mobster, mob baby. In the battle between the Sopranos and the Corleones, who takes over? Donnie Brasco's boss was Lefty Ruggiero, I think. No, it was Sonny Black. They were part of. I think they were. I don't know. I think they were part of Columbo Crew. I'm not sure. Do you remember from Donnie Brasco who Donnie Brasco? No, I'm not sure. I think it was either Columbo or Genovese crew that Donnie Brasco was in. Still, Don Vito or Tony Soprano? What are you thinking? Take us through your thought process.
I'm thinking that they're both they both kind of let their morals get in the way of doing their job, but in the end, I think Don Vito's got more wisdom, and he put it all together from scratch, and Tony Soprano was kind of handed the throne. So very much so. I'm going to go Don Vito. Yeah.
Michael Corleone recently moved to Vegas, realizes that there's some incredibly weird assassin coming after him with a cow-killing gun. Does he have what it takes to outsmart a ruthless sociopathic killer?
No.
Don Michael Corleone gets shot in the head with a cow gun. And it doesn't bring us what I thought was the inevitable father versus son, Don versus Don matchup.
There's something about this guy that I just can't see. I can't see him ever losing.
Not even against the Don?
Not even against Don Michael. No, I don't think he'd have time for his puppeteer behind the scenes stuff. You would just put the cow killing tube straight to the head, and it's gone.
So in Godfather versus everyone, Anton Chigurh comes out on top. That is an interesting bracket, to say the least.
It really is. Yeah, it's not the way I thought it was going to go.
From a mob movie or mob character bad guy perspective, who do you think was missing? Did you find yourself like, where's this guy? I think Keithan said Benny Blanco from the Bronx. Is there any major character that you think could have done better in this bracket?
That's interesting. I don't think of other mob fiction.
What about? I was trying to think of any British mob movies.
Bob Hoskins in The Long Good Friday. I'm trying to remember. Harold Shand, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good one. Carter from Get Carter.
Okay.
Michael Caine.
He's a tough one. I think obviously the brackets skew to my favorite types of movies, I guess. So they're not always. Yeah, that is.
Trying to think of some of the older. There's the original Scarface. Original Tony Montana.
How about Alfred as played by Caine?
Well,
from Batman.
Well, he'd get teary-eyed pretty soon, and then that's it.
On that day, I won't very much feel like saying it, Master Wayne.
I won't bury it up, Wayne. I won't. But yeah, no.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
But in Get Carter, he's got that great moment, and there's a rotund gangster he comes up against, and he punches him in the face, knocks him out, and says, "You're a big man, but you're out of shape. For me, it's a full-time job."
He's a beast. He's a beast, man. It's a.
She was only 15. So you always have to do uncontextual shouting for Michael Caine.
Yeah, no, they're very, very well done. It's a great way to end the show. I appreciate that you came on again. This time,
I've had a blast.
Yeah, it was fun. It's fun to do it live. It's like no editing.
There are no words on it.
Yeah, no worries. But thank you everybody that stopped by. Thank you Keith N for stopping by. Tony Montana would have gotten Anton. He's just as impulsive. That's true. He did survive being there with a chainsaw. I met the guy that got chainsawed, Pepe Serna. They did Pepe Serna a life, and he was the character actor. He's a Latino character actor that was in Scarface. He was the one that got chainsawed in the bathroom in Scarface. So that's an interesting thing to bring up. Tony Montana. Yeah, Tony Montana versus Hyman Roth. That's a tough one. Two Miami legends. But in the fictional world of Mr. Tom Steward, Anton Chigurh come out king. So Tom, again, man, it was great to talk to you. Everybody, check out Lonesome Whistle Productions on Twitter or Facebook and follow along with his acting adventures. Like I said, man, let me know when the show is in Chula Vista. I'm right down the street, so I should be able to come out and check it out one night. And I will hopefully see you around, man. We need to work together on something.
Definitely. Thank you so much. This has been excellent.
All right, guys. Thank you for everybody that tuned in. Everybody have a good night. And I'll be back in 30 seconds to say goodbye, sir. So we'll be out of here in 20. As soon as I can find the video. And 3, 2, peace out.